Connecting this. Oh, okay. It's recording now.
Yeah.
Hi, and welcome to the Trust God and Level Up show. Thank you. I did not get your name, how to say it. Is it Misha?
Misha.
Misha. So thank you for being here, Misha. I appreciate you being here. How are you?
I'm well, thank you. Thank you for having me.
That's amazing. I was saying, even before we started recording, how I actually came across you.
Yeah.
And I was mentioning that I literally saw one TikTok, one video. I didn't even get through it. And then I started commenting and I invited you to the show. And I was just like, where God's leading me, this is the kind of conversations I want to be having. Awesome. So for all my creatives listening, make sure you're just posting your work, posting your thoughts, posting your interests, because you never know who you're going to connect with. But just to go straight into it, for those who don't know who you are or what you do or what you stand for, just do you mind telling us a bit about you and yourself and your journey?
Yeah, so I am a media planner by day, and I work for a global advertising agency. Can't say the name, but I also am a mental health advocate, mental first aid expert, and I do also have bipolar disorder. I was diagnosed in 2018. And that took me on a journey of being like a Black woman, trying to figure out her career, finding out about this new thing that was entering my life, which was a diagnosis, and having to navigate the stigma of that. So that's basically what I like, the intro into this push came about into the mental health wellness type of area, kind of community. One thing I struggled with, in fact, was just having a sisterhood in this community. Not because people aren't suffering from the same disorders or having mental health issues. It's just something that was a taboo in our community, something that just wasn't spoken about.
Yes.
And I reached out on TikTok, which the video you probably saw, was basically to say, I'm creating content. I have a podcast. I've been telling my story, kind of like a therapy for me and my family. And is this something that people want to hear? Black girls, Black women, is this something you want to see? Because if it is, I will continue to do more. But if it isn't, I will continue doing my research, continue doing my data checks and things like that, researching articles, looking up, different resources. But if the demand isn't there, I can't justify doing the work, if that makes sense. But I know that pushed it into my spirit to do. So starting as a means to go on, and you came and this was like, really, I know that people are out here looking, and we clashed and we found each other. So yeah, it's really nice.
And the amazing thing is, this is probably just confirmation to keep going.
Yeah. 100%.
Literally, just sometimes you're like, God, what am I supposed to be doing? What is there any point to this? I don't have the demand and no one's watching my video, especially when you're a creative as well. And you want to help people in the creative space, and you're like, but where are the people then? Where are they?
That's true.
But they are there. And I know we have two sides. I'm going a bit slightly off topic. There's two sides to it where people are like, as long as you're helping one person, that's all that matters. Yeah. You've got that narrative, but then you also say, no, if I'm doing this work, then I want to reach the masses. So it's coming to a place of finding that middle ground. But like you said, you made that video and then we connected, and now we're here. Yeah. And just like that, you are going to continue, because this is confirmation for you. But as we continue this conversation, you mentioned bipolar disorder. Yeah. Did you say disorder? Is it a disorder? Can you say disorder? Nowadays, there's a lot of political correctness.
I don't know. I believe it's still called disorder.
Okay. Okay.
Well, that's what Mind are calling it still, and that's what I benchmark my language on. So yeah, they're still saying bipolar disorder or manic depression as well, which is part of bipolar disorder. I don't know if a lot of people knew that. So yeah.
So if you were to explain it, like, what is like the dictionary definition of bipolar disorder?
So bipolar disorder is a mental illness condition where people can feel extreme highs and extreme lows. So how that looks is really, if they're manic, where they're really high and it can feel like your adrenaline is up and you've got all this energy and you're creative and you're, really expressive, and you lose a lot of your inhibitions as well. And then you can have real lows where you are in a real deep depression. And that is bipolar. So it's two ends of the spectrum, one extreme and one low. And yeah, that's the definition.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I feel like a lot of people, not to sound rude, but a lot of people throw the word depression around quite freely nowadays.
Yes.
They're sad and they're like, I'm depressed.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you differentiate between you are maybe having a an episode potentially and you're just sad for a season? Is it when you say the high, is it like high? What does a high look like?
And this is the thing. And this is, I can talk about this for days. With depression in Black women, like I have to talk about Black women, Black people in general, people of color.
Yeah.
It can look like so many array of different things. So when you are in extreme depression, we have different funnels that hold our coping mechanisms. And how that looks can play out in, if you're a person that usually gets their hair done every 2 weeks, and then that person stops doing that thing, doesn't mean they're depressed. It just means they may be reprioritizing their life and maybe thinking about a few things. And a person in their life may notice, oh, you haven't got your nails done, or you haven't done your hair today. Is everything okay? That is an ounce of just seeing what that looks like from that person's point of view of, I'm depressed because I'm not doing my hair today. That is quite surface level depression.
Okay.
When I say deep depression, I mean someone who can be on the surface, can still be going to work every day, can still be seeing their friends every day, can still be going in and having this big smile on their face and doing as much as they possibly can to cover up this depression, and then going home and their house isn't tidy, they're missing bills, they're not paying attention to their children, they're literally coming in and doing the bare minimum, and then having to cope with the everyday life itself, and then going into extreme levels of just like sadness.
Yeah.
For different people with bipolar, that can look different. And like I've said before, the two extremes are just as bad as each other.
Okay.
Take out, there are things that you can do that affects your life in both ways. So even when I was explaining the high of having a manic disorder or a manic episode, that can still hinder you in a way where you're taking out loans or buying things that you would never buy in your normal state, and it can affect you spiritually. It can affect you in your relationships. You can end up, like when I said you lose your inhibitions, it means that you may go out and cuss everyone in the world and at your boss and do things that is completely off your normal, what you would normally do in your day-to-day. It really is two extremes.
Yeah. And
that answers your question.
I can see the losing of the inhibition element.
Yeah.
And I've seen it in people as well, in my life in general. Like you're like, something's way off, but we don't know what it is because you're still functioning.
Yes.
As well. But just taking it more closer to home for yourself, what happened? What made you get to a place where you got sick? Because I've seen some of your statuses where you may use the word "when I fell sick."
Yeah.
But what does that mean? Or how did you get there? And what does that look like?
And this is the thing. So I was diagnosed in 2018, and a whole host of things happened to me up into the run into that year. So the year prior, 2017, I used to work for a very large media owner, and I ended up having to leave because of microaggression, racism, and just my morale itself. I just couldn't function in the workplace. And I made the decision, a very hard one, a very big financial one, to leave that position. And it was the worst, I wouldn't say it was the worst decision I've made, but it was not an informed decision that I made based off of knowledge from just going to HR, having conversations. There were so many avenues I could have taken before making that decision. So that's one thing. And then I started my own media agency, like an independent agency, helping different people who are like startups or mid-level types of brands and companies get advertising. And that had a real effect on my ability to prioritize, right? And I was saying yes to a lot of things. And I guess I was in that entrepreneurial kind of mindset where I just left my job. I had a little bit of money in the bank. I knew I had an agenda, I had an objective, and I wasn't saying no to anything. I was saying yes to every piece of work that was coming my way. And I had no team. So I was doing a lot of my own admin. I was doing a lot of my own marketing. I was going full throttle. And I took my hand off the pulse of checking in with myself. So the things that I may have missed, like the things that I mentioned before, is I haven't done my hair today. But that's just gonna miss. That's fine. It's okay. And eventually what happened to me is I kept on spiraling. And you don't realize you're spiraling until you fall and you knock yourself out.
What did the spiral look like?
For me, I was working through the night, so I had no sleep. So I was basically insomnia. I had insomnia. But in my world at the time, I was working at both ends. I was literally trying to make my business work. And that looked like early mornings, late nights. That's the culture that we have built into us as I guess, as Black women, as people who are trying to start their own thing or trying to start a business. We have real toxic traits when it comes to starting a new thing. And that was the catalyst of me spiraling. So I would say the lack of sleep. And financially, I was making commitments to people and to things that I couldn't cope with, if I'm being completely honest.
That
was another spiral. So when you don't have spiral on your day-to-day life, and things are now out of your control, it's just going in all directions, there's no one around to tell you that actually slow down, or in my case there wasn't anyone around for me at that time. And even if there were people telling me slow down, I wasn't trying to hear it. I was missing those signposts and those touch points that we talked about. And eventually what happened to me is I was suffering from insomnia. I couldn't get to sleep. And I think I was awake for 8 days. Yes.
8 days? What, straight?
Straight.
What, as in naps included? Like naps here and there?
No naps. From what I've been told from family, that it was about 4 days of being awake. Like maybe light sleep, but nothing like not sleep. And I was not making any sense. So I was just talking about work. And people were like, is Misha okay? I think she might need to see someone. And this is when I obviously lived alone at the time. And so a lot of my family didn't know what was going on in my life, because I was independent. I was working outside of the hours that people would normally see me and things like that. So eventually I went to my mum's house, and from what I've been told is it was like 5 a.m. in the morning, and I brought my oldest son with me. And I was just saying, I think I need help. I'm not sure what's going on. And I could almost know, I knew that I needed the help, but I didn't know obviously to call like a crisis team. I didn't know I was in a crisis. So what I knew was home, a safe place. So my safe place was my mum's house. And that was the start of what happened to have been me being sectioned. and getting the help. And at the time it was voluntary. It was a voluntary section, meaning when you go into hospital, when you are having a crisis, you go there in like involuntary. So you're going there to be observed.
Yeah.
Just so they can see how you're displaying and see whether or not you may need medication, or if this is something that is like a talking therapy thing, and just to kind of coax you out of whatever that is, and kind of keep you on suicide watch as well.
Okay.
Right? So it really is, it can sound really heavy. For Black women and people of color in general, there's a lot of stereotyping in this medical system that is it just goes without saying that it's just a shambles. And for me, what I saw in the PICU, which is an intensive care acute unit, was a tragic misinformed like system.
Okay.
And if it wasn't for the people in my family speaking on my behalf when I couldn't, I don't think I would be here speaking to you today.
Oh, wow. That we're going to like go into a bit more detail about that, but you kept on saying from what I've been told.
Yeah.
Why are you using the term from what I've been told rather than you
but this is the thing,
going through something?
I have no memory of my first episode.
Oh, wow.
Right. I have no memory of my first episode. And that's why I know that God is real.
Yeah.
And that's why I also know that if it wasn't for his grace, so yeah, like how the actual episodes, well, for me, how it felt, out of body experience.
Okay, wow.
I had gotten so far that I was in psychosis.
What is psychosis when you say the word psychosis?
This is when you stumble across the line of schizophrenia in a way.
Okay, yeah.
Is
it like delusion?
Delusional, yeah.
Okay.
So you now got a delusion to the reality that you're experiencing. They say hearing voices and thinking that things have, I guess, an alignment to your life. So you get some people who think that they're God.
Yeah. There's a lot of religious elements.
There's a lot of religious
and
spiritual elements to it. Like I thought I could hear the TV saying I should be doing X, like different things. And so they gave me, when I got to the hospital, I was so bad, they gave me a injection. I'm not sure what the actual name of the medication is called, but it was like a tranquilizer. It was a tranquilizer, which is kind of funny now speaking about it. But it basically knocked me out, put me to sleep. And I think I was sleeping and that's why I get the 8 days, because I was awake for 4 days and I slept for 4 days. So yeah, 8 days in total, just to calm me back down. And it was funny because when I woke up, I had no hair. I went to the barbers, shaved off all my hair. So this is like a whole thing. And that's when my mum knew this is not Misha.
Yeah.
Something's wrong. She's just shaved her head.
Yes.
That was like the trigger. And you know, in the Black community, your hair is like your crown.
Yeah, especially if you're not that type of person.
Right. And I was on a hair journey at that time. I had quite long hair. And to shave it off and start again, that was like, no. This is self-harm at this point.
Yeah. So, and you don't recall any of that?
I recall going to the barbershop.
Okay.
But I don't remember. When I woke up in hospital, I had then realized, oh my God.
Yes.
You know,
or did you just connect the dots in your memory?
So it's kind of like you have the flashbacks of, oh my gosh, I thought that was a dream.
Yes.
Like it's like you're a zombie. Honestly, that's how it, for me, that's how it felt. I can't say other people, but and that is when you go too far into your depression or too far into your manic episode and you don't take your medication. Those are the things that can trigger schizophrenia or trigger psychosis.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow, that's quite. It's funny because I've met quite a few people who've been in that space where you're like, are you in reality right now? Because how you're speaking is not how you usually speak.
Yeah.
But I know I can't tell you off because I know something's not right, but you're violating me by the way you're speaking as well.
That is the scary part, and the most awful part of the disorder itself is that your family become your punching bag. And usually, if I'm being so honest, just from experience, it's just the suppressed stuff that they've been wanting to say that they now saying. It's crazy. It's just like, you know, I don't know, I think a lot of people who in the bipolar community would say that it's their superpower, because that's their time to kind of come out. It's like, no, that's the weirdness of the schizophrenia.
Okay.
And I think that becomes now a topic that I can't really speak on to because I'm not sure on schizophrenia itself. Yeah, that is quite an interesting battle, and that's where the journey.
Okay. So you mentioned that you had a son at the time, just one child at the time.
Yeah.
How did he fit into it? Were you taking him to school, or does he go to school on his own at that age? I don't know how old he would have been.
I think he was in year 8 or year 9 at the time.
Okay.
He was going to school alone, but I took him to my mum's, and she called his dad, and that's how that kind of got.
Oh, so that he was taken.
Yeah, he was taken. He wasn't put into care or anything like that. Well, kind of, but he was put into the care of his father. Yeah, it was an emotional time because at the time I hadn't addressed a lot of trauma from the past.
Okay.
So it was just kind of all coming out at one big flood of trauma was coming out, and I kind of needed it. If I'm being so honest, it was like a opening of the floodgates for me. I got to, and what isn't good is I actually got rest.
Yeah. Because you stop.
Because I stopped. So see, lockdown, that was like, I needed probably that in 2018. Like it was, life had to actually stop, and it did stop. To actually rest. And that is the craziness of what the world offers you. Whereas God is like a peace that is just in you, like, and that is something that I know is a spiritual thing, and it's from God, and it can only be from God where you get that peace. So I got a rest. So
and sometimes I feel like when it comes to healing as well, seeing the positives in a negative situation makes you, even though it was a negative situation, or people may perceive it as a negative, you can see the goodness in the negativity.
We'll put things in our, like, God will make every situation for his glory. And so that is where I see, like, when I was so thankful, because I think I can't remember the stat that they gave me, because I'm a stats girl.
Okay.
I love data. they were like, you are a miracle.
Oh, wow.
Not like 1 in 1,000 or something. It was crazy. Not many people come out of how far you went in this manic episode. Not many people come out on the other side to live life as and there was a battle in that self, because I felt like I was misdiagnosed. I didn't receive the diagnosis just right away, if I'm being honest with you.
Okay.
I was very combative, and that is another thing in our community, that we need to just allow professionals to be professionals. That kind of was the catalyst for maybe me being well again. because I was refusing to take drugs, because I grew up, I don't take drugs. Like, drugs is like, you get told in school, don't do drugs. And this medication, should I call it, they're just as sedative as a horse tranquilizer.
Oh wow, the ones that people are taking on a day-to-day.
Ketamine, that kind of like people that take drugs like morphine and things like that.
Yeah.
It's just as strong, and it has the same implications of, you know, health problems in the long run. So I had to really be like, is this something that I should be doing? And another thing was just like, what does this medication now do to my performance? Because I was a performance-based person. I really loved work. I loved being productive. I really liked getting into what I can do to like help others. And then I realized that some of the medication I was on, I wasn't able to even function.
Yeah.
But now you're taking my functions away from me.
Yeah.
I was talking to God. I was, because I was thinking, what are you doing? And I was blaming. I was doing a lot of blaming. Seeing what was actually at my doorstep and what my purpose is and what my function is. But yeah, until you kind of come to the reality of it, you're none the wiser, and you just have to kind of trust the professionals to be professionals, but then at the same time trust God to be God. Oh no, you've frozen.
Yeah.
Did you freeze?
Okay, I think we're coming back. I think it's coming back.
Yeah.
We're nearly here. Yeah, we're back again, I think.
Yeah. Awesome.
It says your internet is unstable. Oh no, why is my internet unstable? It's mine. It's my internet.
Yours. Oh.
Yeah. So I think we got up to I think I might have to tether, you know, because the way this is moving.
Oh, you like that?
Let me tether from my phone. And see if that'll work a bit better. Let me switch my internet and then we can carry on.
Let me know when you're ready.
Yeah. Okay, so we are connected to a different internet source, and I can see you blinking, so that's good.
Okay, good.
Okay, so we can use that instead.
Okay. So where was I? But yeah, I think that's where the church needs to come in and allow for professionals to be professionals in this space. Because what was very difficult for me is that I wanted a faith-driven psychologist. I wanted someone of the faith, whether any faith, if I'm being honest, at that time. I wanted someone to like have God as their foundation, and be able to apply wisdom, and that was difficult. It's like it's like church doesn't mix with medical professionals and usually you will see manifestation of mental health in church first.
Yes.
Then it gets misdiagnosed in church, and then you go to a hospital and it gets misdiagnosed because of the stigma and the sorry, what's the word for it? And the stereotype as well.
Yeah, it's true. I do want to pause it there and go back a bit, because you mentioned something that I think is quite important to highlight. So with mental health issues in general, bipolar, depression, everything else, do you think yours was triggered? Obviously, you mentioned by you starting your business and everything else, but you also said that when you had your manic episode, no, shut the door. Come on. Shut the door.
It's okay. It's okay.
Action. You mentioned that a lot of the trauma that you had were coming out. What did you mean by trauma? What coming out?
And this is why I started the podcast, because I wasn't sure what my trigger was. And that was the thing in the hospital when I was getting well again, was, well, what was the cause?
Yeah.
And we realized it was the lack of sleep.
Okay.
It was the lack of sleep that got me there.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was the lack of sleep. And that was one of the things that I value like gold dust now, especially if it was a trigger. But yeah, lack of sleep. And I would say just not doing the mental health check-ins with myself, because that is something that you have to do. That is something you're responsible for. Like the same thing that they say, like, you're responsible for your own happiness. That's a nice way of saying you are responsible for your own mental health, and like whether you are diagnosed with anything, you are responsible for checking in with yourself and saying, I am not good today. You know, some people keep journals.
Yes.
I know you've got your own.
So a promotion.
Yes. Journals are a great way to just do the mental health check. How am I feeling today? I felt sad.
Yeah.
How did that make me feel? You know, putting some words to that thing that made you feel that way. Just put it down somewhere. And when I realized, I don't do enough of that, I internalize. And the internalizing everything, the thing that I didn't address because someone said something bad about me, I didn't address that person, or I didn't say to that person, this made me feel this way. I was internalizing it, and it was just eating at me. And that plus lack of sleep.
So that gets me thinking, can this happen to anybody?
I believe so.
Because we sometimes think, maybe it's in your family, you know, is it in your family? Especially in the church, it's like, it's a generational curse that's come from somewhere.
Yeah.
And that's where I even want to lead the conversation in terms of the misconception Christians and the church world has about mental health issues. Yeah. So you don't think it's like a childhood thing that you noticed from a childhood, just wasn't diagnosed till later?
Don't get me wrong. And this is the thing. It made so much more sense when I was diagnosed. Because I did have highs as a teenager. I did have real lows. But in my household, like, I grew up in an acts of service household.
Yes, I listened to that podcast. Yeah.
Right? If you were not acts of service, you were useless. So I had a lot of verbal abuse.
Yes.
I don't like when I say that. I had a lot of verbal abuse because I wasn't pandering to that act of service. However, I loved quality time. So if people would be in the kitchen with me, while I wash up, I would do that thing. Right?
Yeah.
If I didn't have the things that actually was the thing that makes me feel loved and makes me feel good, I would obviously feel depressed because no one's speaking my language.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So I realized as a kid that I don't know if it was bipolar, but I do believe that I had lack of things in my life.
So something was missing.
Something was missing.
Yeah.
And you internalize it. So I wasn't even talking about, my mom, because I grew up in a single parent household. She worked so hard to bring up me and my sisters. And what happened to our breakdown was that she just did not have time, and I'm a quality time babe. So when it came to us having conversations, I had no commonality with her. I had no relationship built because we had nothing to talk about. I would feel like I can't connect with my mom, and all my friends had these moms that they connect with and they go shopping together and they get on, whereas my mom was house tidy. That's all she was. And that was such a thing in my household that I had to it was a bit of jealousy here, that's a sin, and envy here, and that I grew up envying my older sister, trying to pick her, and that's just what it was at the time.
So there were kind of little clues left behind, breadcrumbs left behind from a while, but something triggered it. And that's where it's important to, like, you have to understand what mental health is to be able to identify something. Right. It's like when people keep dating people that keep traumatizing them, but they don't know that there's something better out there. You don't know that there's something that you can change. You won't go and change or observe. So that's a very valid point, because I was mentioning even earlier to you that someone came to cut my son's hair, and he was mentioning that his stepson has sickle cell, and also highlighted that the mom and obviously the child's dad did not have the conversation that they were both carriers, or potentially didn't even know. Right. Because in a Black community, everyone keeps their mouth shut. Yes. Nobody wants to speak about anything.
And that is the same for me when with my oldest sons and my oldest son's dad and I, there was a breakdown in our relationship because things weren't being done on my end. And I was just in a depressive state. I was just depressed. I couldn't be a girlfriend or wife or anything.
Yeah.
I just didn't have enough to fill a cup.
Yes.
Fill, do you know what I mean? So now we are such a blended family where we understand who each other are because of we have so much better communication. And it's a fact, I'll get onto this a bit later, but mental health first aiders are so important. You need to identify who those people are in your life, because they are a matter of life and death. If they know you well enough, they will know when something is off.
Yeah.
They should be able to tell you if you can't tell yourself first.
Yeah. You just mentioned the word mental health first aider. What is that, like a real role?
A real role,
or is this just a friend who's really into reading up on things and would tell you the truth?
A bit of both. So you can actually get a qualification with Mind Charity, that gives you the approval that you are a mental health first aider, meaning that you can see the signs, you know what to do in case of a mental health emergency or a mental health crisis. You know what steps to take and how to basically support that person through their mental health crisis.
So say someone had, like I had never heard about mental health first aider. As a friend or a cousin or a sister, when you see someone potentially in a manic state or something may not be right, and they might not listen to you, because I've noticed that maybe they're not going to listen to you.
You may fall out with that person because you're in my business. Right?
Exactly.
You get that.
How do you approach a situation like that, or how would you have been more receptive of feedback if you were in that state?
There's always a right and a wrong way.
Okay.
So if you know a friend has a diagnosis, and if you don't know a friend has a diagnosis, there are two ways, right? So if you know you have a friend who suffers from mental health issues, they may not like being asked about their disorder. They may not want to face it head on. So that means they haven't actually come to terms with their diagnosis.
Yeah.
So what you need to be mindful of is that person could easily be triggered by you telling them, have you taken your medication? So it just might be a regular check-in and having an actual conversation before you ask that question.
Yeah.
Because that will now spike a reaction of why are you getting in my business for? Makes that person think, I wonder if they're seeing things in me that I can't see myself. And it has them questioning how they're perceived, which now puts them in internalizing. Speaking, and what your role is as a friend is to get that person to speak to you, so they can help unpack what it is you see they're displaying, because you don't know what you don't know, right?
Exactly.
And so the best thing to do is to keep them on the phone, and that is part of being like a suicide watch as well. This person may have had a suicide or self-harm attempt in the past, and they don't always want to be constantly reminded that they did. They are getting better. That's part of getting better.
Yeah.
I don't want to keep going back, but however you do have a past, I'm just checking in. And checking in is what it says on the tin. You are checking in to see if the person is okay. And appreciate it. Continue to keep phoning. And there is a real wrong way, which is going above that person without telling them this is what you're doing, as in sectioning them before you've actually had a conversation with them. Because what that feels like in our community is I'm going to prison. It feels like I'm a criminal, because the system, unfortunately, is set up.
You froze for a moment, so can you start again from how it feels in our community?
Yeah. So how it feels in our community is criminalized. Mental health is criminalized in our community.
Yes.
I can't speak for all, I can only speak for my own, right? How the mental health system looks when you go into hospital, it's very institutionalized.
Okay, yeah.
It's very similar. The look of it and feel of it is very similar to prison. It's cold. It's not warm. It's not safe.
Yeah.
It's there to do its job by giving you the bare minimum care. Well, I wouldn't say bare minimum care, but to give you enough resource for you to get better, but not enough for you to be well.
Okay.
Understand?
Yeah.
So the mod coms that you may have in your home, cushions, nice curtains, maybe a candle, things that may feel good, right? That makes you feel like you're in your own space. That's how you would think a mental health hospital should feel.
Yeah.
Comfortable, a place where you can rest. And for the most part, in most private hospitals, Priory, you'll probably get that.
Yes.
Right, you'll probably get that. In places where you're in, like, NHS facility, you're not going to receive that. And plus you have the stigma, and then you have the stereotyping. So if you go into hospital without someone giving you without giving consent, really, it's like you're now in prison because you're locked away and you don't have access to the outside world with your own initiative. That now puts you and that person or that friend in a position of, I wish you just had told me, because I didn't even realize I was presenting this way. But to show up to my house with a police officer and an ambulance, that's crazy. Where's the context? Where's the help? Like, there was no conversation before. And I think that's where me and my family learned real quickly how not to and how to do an episode.
Yeah. Because I think it's never crossed my mind that someone will actually just call someone because it could be from a sincere place. Yeah. But not speak to you and be like, they're going crazy, please come and take them, or something like that.
Yeah, and for the most part, don't get me wrong, some families, that is their last resort. But I think let's do the steps. Did you check in? Yes. Yeah. Did you tell them to take their medication? Yes. Did you go to their house? Yes. Did you try? You have to check off your list.
Yes.
You can't go from one extreme thing and then not have done all these other steps in between. Because exactly when you put them in hospital, this is what they're going to do from the beginning.
Yeah.
And that is the misconception, and the fact that we don't talk about mental health and facilities in our community, that we just know what to do.
Yeah.
At wit's end, we don't have people that can, advise. When I say the church needs to do more in our community, it's because the church is where we first go when there is a crisis. If we have a crisis,
that is true.
With our marriage, we'll go to our pastor. If we have a problem with, anything, we'll go and speak to people who can pray with us and intercede on our behalf. And in certain cases, it's being missed. and being approached from a way of this person needs deliverance.
Yeah.
And usually that is the case. Yes, that is still true.
Okay.
But what do you do after deliverance?
What do you do?
The work doesn't stop there.
Oh, interesting.
The work doesn't just stop at deliverance. No.
Yeah.
This person needs to speak to someone after.
True. Very, very true. And that's where sometimes there's a conflict depending on which doctrine in the Christian world you subscribe to as well. That is something that, hey, we've prayed, you've been delivered. You going to see a doctor is now counteracting. But it's like, if I broke my leg, you will tell me to go hospital and not judge me. But if my mental state is broken or, hurt, that's a problem. And that comes from ignorance. And that's why I'm trying to even have these conversations to make people understand that, yes, we will pray. We do believe in deliverance. God can set you free. He has set you free.
Yeah.
But get checked out, manage, learn about what you're going through and what you experience. I want to go back a little bit again.
Sure.
I know we keep going back and forth.
I know.
But I want you to paint the picture for me, because you said were you misdiagnosed? So say you were in that hospital for the 4 days where you slept.
Yeah.
What happened after that when you woke up? Did they just send you home?
No, I did not go home straight away.
Okay.
So I was sectioned, and obviously I told you I didn't remember
yes
what was happening in between that time. In between that time, I was told that I basically wanted to fight everyone, that I was presenting as very aggressive, and I had taken off my clothes, well, not all my clothes, but I had taken off my clothes and had tried to walk around.
Is this all in the hospital?
This is all in hospital, yeah.
Okay.
And so they took away my right of a voluntary admission.
Yes.
And so that means I couldn't say whether I wanted to leave or not and go home. I was now under the state. I was now a looked after person, as in you're not safe to be alone, right? And so that means, I think it was, don't remember the days, I think it's 21 days that you have to be in hospital for.
Oh, wow.
And then if you're not well by then, they then extend it or take it to tribunal. Now, being the woman that I am, when they took away my right for voluntary, I actually went to tribunal. I was well enough to know that I could go to a tribunal, which is literally like going into court.
Yes.
At the hospital with advocates.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and hospital.
And this is after the 21 days.
So this was during the 21 days. So while I'm still in the 21 days, during those 21 days, say day 8 to day 15, I had the tribunal, and I actually won that case.
Okay.
So what they were trying to offer me in that space was medication. And what I did, because I like to test, I'm a tester, I work in advertising, I test and I do marketing. So you just test things out. I'll take the medication to see what it does. And I'm going to give you feedback. Yeah. Because that's what good qualitative survey does, right?
Yeah.
You feedback. This is how it makes me feel. They gave me medication, which was quetiapine, which a lot of people in our community are on.
Okay.
And it made me lethargic. It made me slur. It made me incoherent. It was not Misha. It was not me. I'm articulate. I'm smart. I'm intelligent. It was taking all of those things and turning it into something else. I couldn't even walk. I was a sloth. I felt like a sloth. I said, there's no way you want me on this medication. So I need to be better. This is not the route.
Yeah.
I am challenging this medication. This is what you're offering to me as a 28-year-old at the time.
Yeah.
There's no way. I'm too young for this drug, basically. And when I was reading, because obviously they have to give you all the notes that you need in order to be informed when you're going into a tribunal. They have to give you all the side effects. Side effects were heart failure, stroke, obesity, all the things. Now, with medication that helps bipolar, obesity, a lot of the medication does make you put on weight, and that's the thing that I have been experiencing.
Yeah.
Which is a bit of the reason why I don't like taking medication as well, because it just doesn't make me feel good putting on weight, and I have no control over that.
Yeah.
But if I had to take the weight over having a heart attack or a stroke, I'll take the weight.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So I went into that tribunal. I said, there has to be a better drug. I want it offered to me. It has not been offered. And this is where I'm at. However, not a lot of people when they go into hospital know that they can do this. They just take what is given.
Yes.
We are told to trust our healthcare professionals. And that's why I say there is a disservice of being like misdiagnosed, because you don't know that you can do these things without getting to the root cause of what it is that caused it. And that's what I did. A lot of the time, what healthcare professionals would do is try to silence your voice.
Yes.
Are you sure you're well enough to know if this is working or not? And it's quite patronizing. And for me, what I saw when I was in hospital was a lot of people of color.
Oh, wow.
Stuck in the system.
Yeah.
Like, obviously, when you're there for 21 days, you get to know people and their stories, why they're in, and you just get to build rapport with people. And there was people that were doctors.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Lawyers, people that are coming from really good backgrounds, who just have basically flawed themselves with whatever it is that they're doing, and they're now in hospital. They've been sectioned and they're on medication that they're no longer able to perform at that level.
Yes.
And it's sad, but I think we need to speak about it, because there is a medical racism going on as well.
Yeah, that's an interesting point you're making, because a lot of people will just think, hey, the doctor said that's what I need to take. You'll just take it, no matter how it makes you feel.
Yeah,
it's just part of it comes with it. But is it true? I've heard this saying that you have to take some form of medication for at least 3 months to realize if it works for you.
That's true.
Is that true?
But if the side effects if I'm having crazy side effects, I need to know, this is how this is making me feel, and why is it doing that? So
yes.
If I don't have the collateral, as in I don't have the information on, is this supposed to make me feel this way? I can't be informed enough. I can't go on your word. I again may have trust issues. And that's another piece of trauma. I had trust issues from before. I need to know that this is right for me. And it just means that you need to take responsibility for what is going inside of you. And I think not a lot of people commend that. But I think if you're not able to do it on your own behalf, if you are in hospital, you should have friends and family that can help you in your decision making. Because don't get me wrong, I had family members telling me, oh, just listen, I said, no, why? They haven't given me enough information for me to listen.
Yes.
It's just like when you took, like, I don't know if you took the COVID vaccination or not, but when there was enough information out there for you to inform yourself on whether I should take it or not.
Yeah.
I wasn't just going to take a pill that because a doctor has told me to take this, I'm going to take it. That was just not my portion. And I just felt
and I get that. That should be how we should approach life in general anyway. But you mentioned you should have friends and family. What if you don't have friends and family?
And that is
where do you go?
There are advocates out there that come into hospitals.
Okay.
They aren't allowed to approach you. That's the only thing. They aren't allowed to speak to you. They go into the hospital. I know you're looking
so they're allowed into like the wards.
You are, you yourself, if you were to do a qualification in, say, mental health first aid,
okay,
or just to be a listener, a friend of the hospital, whatever it is, you can go in and act on someone's behalf as their advocate. Anyone can be an advocate. Right? And that is the thing that a lot of people don't know when they go into themselves, is who do I go to now? I'm alone. And that's the challenging thing that I think our community needs to show up more in this space. And because what will happen is, if an advocate is a white middle-aged man, am I going to trust him that he's going to be in my best decision? Probably not. But if another woman the same age as me is there speaking on my behalf, because I can't at the time, I could trust that. I think it comes down to optics as well, how things look, and influence how you're cared for. Right? I've got, like, my mum's an accountant, my sister's a dentist. I have quite educated people on my behalf. So when they came into hospital, it was a different service. They weren't speaking to illiterate people. Right? And I can tell you, because there was one person that was in the hospital with me at the same time, same diagnosis, different treatment.
That makes sense. And it happens everywhere. Childbearing, having children everywhere in the healthcare system, especially with Black women. It's just like, we are up. I don't know if they're trained to think we're tougher, we don't need extra help, we can figure it out ourselves. And it's sad to hear that you've actually seen it, because sometimes there's a lot of it's in conversation, but we haven't seen it or experienced it ourselves. But hearing that is quite,
actually go in. There's nothing stopping you from going in and saying, I'm from this charity, I just want to come in and send my services out for those who may need it. There probably are, if you probably go on Mind charity, they probably have a course or something there that you can sign up or be a volunteer. But it allows you to go into these facilities and literally, even if it's a conversation. There was I met a few Jewish people while I was, a few Jewish ladies that came into the hospital to basically minister. I went up to them, I was like, why are you guys here? Like, and you know, they were telling me, oh, we just come in just to support. It's part of what we do as our devotion.
Because you said you can't approach, like, patients, for example.
But as a patient, I can approach them.
So you have to position yourself where they have to, as in when you say approach, do you mean as in they have to walk up to you first? As
a patient, you have to walk up to the advocate first. Advocate cannot walk up to you,
so they can't just come in and start conversations with people. You have to be quiet as an advocate and wait for someone to ask you why you're here. In a way. Is this because it's a law? Is it a law?
I have not done that much digging, but arts I will. But yes,
that's quite interesting.
That was the case at Chase Farm Hospital in Enfield.
That's quite interesting, because a lot of people don't realize that they can support people in that way. So even from this conversation, it's like, oh, you can become a mental health first aider in that respect. Because a lot of people just think about first aid training, you know, CPR, but not realize there is something called
first aid mental health, and that is, we need more in our community. We have the issue in our community. We have a lot of schizophrenia, we have a lot of bipolar, we have misdiagnosis of anxiety and depression. We have it, and we just don't talk about it because it's a taboo.
That's very interesting, because I think the Black community is only like 3 or 9%. I don't know which one the percentage is.
Like 3%.
3% across the whole of the UK. Yet the percentage in prisons and in mental health hospitals is just doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
So, and even giving blood, very off topic, but even giving blood is a whole other thing where Black blood is needed, and we're not, going out there. So
going up there, but that is because of the numbers. That is because of the demographic in itself showing up in that way. Some of us can't give blood because, like you said, we may have sickle cell, things like that. So there's a lot of stipulations to that sort of thing. But if we don't take action in our community where we should, we can't expect other groups of people to show up for us.
Yes,
we're not actively in that area. And it's funny because I started working on a project called The Well in 2020, and that was about extreme poverty and injustice. And in that, working on that project, I realized how the Christian community has community. It's such a big, thriving community. However, there's spaces that we just aren't penetrating.
Yeah.
And that's unfortunate, because I do believe the Black church and the Black church are showing up for each other.
Yeah.
But just in ways that is just secular to, like, not secular, just in the church pocket, and it just doesn't go beyond those four walls. Are you in the community? And how are you in the community? Are you just there on Sundays?
Exactly.
Or are you showing up to those? Are you being advocates? Because I know there's a lot of prison outreach.
That's true. That is very, very true. Or prison ministry.
In it, prison ministry.
Yeah.
Nowhere to be seen in the mental wards.
Yeah. It's very, very true.
The Jews there. You've got the Muslims there. Where's the Christians?
That's a very, very good point. Because sometimes we're like, God, use me for your kingdom.
Right.
But we also have to give the grace of being exposed to these things.
Right.
So anyone listening, if God lays it on your heart to support or even become an advocate or become a mental health first aider, that is ministry. You're serving.
Amen.
Because someone out there needs your help, someone out there who has maybe been diagnosed needs support and they have nobody. And you could be that person that can help them come to a place of, productivity in life and living a normal life.
Yeah.
But that's me. I want to weave it slightly a bit different to after receiving your diagnosis. Has this impacted like romantic relationships? I know I didn't tell you we were going to go here. But in terms of, in general, like, or should I just say relationships?
So
do you tell people straight away, for example?
Okay. So full transparency, at the beginning of my diagnosis, I didn't say anything because I didn't think I had to. However, I am quite an open book. I would tell people, I've got bipolar disorder, but I realized that I didn't want this to become my crutch.
Yeah. Or identity, isn't it?
Yes. And that too. And that's part of the babe. Like, I didn't want that to define me.
Yeah.
However, I do think it's right that when you are starting relationship with anyone, friends, a romantic partner, that you let them know when it's getting serious. That, these are the things that I have struggled with in the past. This is where I'm at, and this is the work I am doing on myself in order to make sure that I am well. These are the boundaries that I have to put in place because I have bipolar disorder, because I have anxiety, or because I have depression. These are my boundaries. And I think it shows your level of commitment to that friendship. Because I personally I'm not in the business of just telling people my business for business sake. Yeah. I want to inform and educate, but at the same time be quite private and still protect that part of me as well. So for instance, like job applications, do I declare it? No.
No. Okay.
But then at the same time, if I start a new job and they ask me for my medical, I will put it.
Okay.
Because I've now entered into a relationship with this person.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't want someone to look at my application and it's just kind of being like blind.
Yes.
You understand? I would say prefer to not say. Do you know?
Yeah.
Until that relationship is then had. And yeah, I think it really does come down to that person and where they are at that stage in their life, in where they do. But I do think if you don't say it to a romantic partner in itself, it can have huge effect on going forward. So
Okay.
I'll give you a story, in fact.
Love to hear it.
When I met my partner, Elton, I actually told him quite early on in our relationship.
Okay.
Because I was trying to be intentional going. And I believe that if someone is leading your family or leading yourself into any situation, you should be able to be transparent enough with them for them to know what they are leading and how that could be difficult. I'm not going to say that I'm the easiest person to get along with, because I'm probably not. I'm not going to say that I can be quite hard when I am having an episode. But they are so far and few that you don't even have to worry about it, because I'm in check. I'm mentally check in with myself. But let's check in with each other. So the same thing that I would do with myself is the same thing I will do with you. How are you feeling? Are these things that you should be worrying about? How did that make you feel? It's just being open and honest. And I feel that has had wonders on our communication.
Okay.
And it's just allowed us to go to spaces that I probably didn't get to in my previous relationship. And we're building on marriage. We're getting there, hopefully soon. But yeah, I feel like we are in a space where we can say that at least he knew from very early and how and it was up to him to take on the burden, because it is a little bit of a burden, because you are relying on your family members or your friends to understand where you are at when you are having a crisis, and to make sure that they're safeguarding you. Responsibility from friends and family, and it's not for everyone, and so that's why it's fair to tell them.
And like you mentioned, it's important to understand, especially if you are the person who may have bipolar or you've been diagnosed, taking that responsibility for yourself to self-educate on how to manage yourself.
Yeah.
You've frozen again. Oh no. Are we back?
We're back.
Yeah, we're back again.
Okay, good.
So on how to manage yourself, but you mentioned I make it clear my boundaries.
Yes.
What do you mean by that?
Okay, so I have boundaries when it comes to sleep.
Okay.
And boundaries when it comes to, like, I guess it's conversation and having communication. So I know that sounds weird and I explain it. When it comes to my sleeping pattern, I'm very clear on that. And I know that was a trigger. So I really do try to have things that are not going to, interrupt that. So I don't really like drugs. I don't take drugs. I will not have it around me. I do not partake. I don't want people around me that are going to partake. I'm okay with alcohol, but if I'm taking my medication, I'm not going to be drinking. So I try to not be around it too much. So there's boundaries in place. Go do what you're doing, but I don't feel like I need to partake in order to have fun as well, right? And if I'm being honest, because I am pretty much at the time in my circle, I was the only real Christian. I had to let go of friendships. I had to let go, because I personally, physically, mentally couldn't keep up with that lifestyle. And if I can't keep up with that lifestyle and it's not serving me, bye.
Yeah. And it
I love
happens.
you. You're my friend. I love you. But I can't tolerate it anymore.
Yeah.
Boundaries here. These are my, this is my level I can get to. I won't go further. And that is a part of being Christ-centered.
Yeah.
Then communication. Do you know what a salah means?
Yeah.
Like a pause.
Okay.
I would say I had a salah moment in my life, which was 2018, which is pause from life, right?
Oh, yeah.
I appreciate pauses. I don't and like I don't not like them. I really welcome pauses and moments of silence. If I'm in a disagreement with somebody, I need to pause. If I don't have the capacity or the words to give you what
Okay, our sound is gone again.
Oh,
So
yeah.
we stopped at if I'm in a disagreement with someone. So if you can start from there.
Yeah. So if I'm in a disagreement with somebody and I personally haven't processed what they're saying to me, I'm not going to meet them where they're at that moment.
Okay.
I will say is, can we pause this so I can have time to reflect? And I need that time because I need to process what you've just said.
Yeah.
And I found that has actually worked wonders for my just anger, just miscommunication, being perceived as aggressive, because that was a thing. I'm my tonality when I am angry, nothing light.
Yeah.
I'm very to the point. And I don't want to ever make someone feel like they can't be themselves around me, or they can't say their truth. So I know that, okay, if I know that you're going to get a tonality out of me, which is aggressive, pause, let me come back when I'm okay, when I've processed, and we can talk. So that's a boundary that I put around communication.
Can I just ask, how long are your pauses?
As long, no, I won't say that. It's not as long as I need, but I would say 24 hours for sure.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm not a ghoster. I'm not a ghoster.
Okay. Because I think I've been married nearly 10 years.
Yeah.
And I'm like the opposite of pause.
Pause.
We're gonna deal with this here, now, and then go to bed with no anger type of person.
No, I'm not.
Yeah, so no. I'm always like telling people, rather than harboring and then doing silent treatment and all of these things.
Yeah.
Try and deal with it then I realized not everyone's like me.
And this is the thing, there needs to be an applied wisdom there, because even if you pause, it doesn't mean the silent treatment.
Exactly.
It does not mean I'm upset with you. It just I need to process what this conversation is going into.
Yeah.
And I can't do that right now because I'm mentally haven't got the capacity, or I'm physically drained, or whatever it is. I might have come from work and I'm not in the mood. So you're going to get the attitude of work. And I don't want to.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I saw a little bit right there, like, work.
Do you know what I mean though? It's like I don't want to bring something that is not that into.
Yes. So
let's pause and let's get, and even if it could be that same night that we unpack, but it really does. When I say I need to pause this,
yes,
put a pin in this, they love that one at work. It just allows you to just have that time to just think, strategize, prioritize it, and then have good communication. Also silence.
Yeah. And I think, like you mentioned, is the key of is not from a place of malicious and to hurt the other person. Yes. It's a genuine, let's put a pin so I can process. And I think those are two different things. The silent treatment, like, I'm not chatting to you, I'm not going to speak to you for a couple of days, I need to figure it out myself. That's very different to let's pause and let me process. So I appreciate that. So you mentioned sleep, conversation. I think there was a third one.
Those are the two main ones.
Okay.
I don't think I have a third. They're the two. The people, my friends and family know me. if she hasn't got her sleep, don't talk to her. And communication. Those are the two things. And it's both ways, by the way. It's both ways. I can say something and they pause me because that's and it's just the kind of mirroring and the expect how you are treated to be treated that way as well.
Yeah.
So I can't be vexed or vexed when they are giving me the same treatment. It's that's how I want to be, how I would like to communicate. So yeah, those are the two things. Is that
when you say sleep, what does that actually look like? Like you go to bed at 9 o'clock? Because it's like what does your sleep look like when you say? Because you've got a younger child as well, don't you? So how did you manage that?
So in fact, when I had Eli, I did have an IVF crisis. I was on stronger medication, and this medication was more sedative because of how serious the crisis was at the time. I took the medication because I said, I need to show up for my son. Sleep, I'll take the sedative. But I'm on a very small dose. Right, it's like 0.7. Like it's nothing in the bipolar world. Those who are watching, what's
the percentage in general for us to?
If you think 3,000 milligrams.
Hey. Okay, so this is like just a taster.
This is tiny.
Yeah.
This is not rocking, no, but this is just me for my protection. This is me just thinking it's the placebo at this point.
Yeah.
But I still take it because I need to take it every day. It's my protection. And but like I said, when I was on those stronger doses, I needed to get that sleep. And when I'm taking one, I can't feel like I still got to do this and this and this before I can take it. I still need to be able to rely on my partner to wash the dishes. Can I go to sleep while you do that? Is it okay to work this tonight? And just having a pattern. So obviously when I was on maternity leave, I had more flexibility to take my medication. Now, obviously, I had to speak with my healthcare professionals and be quite intentional about how to kind of phase off of the larger dose. And that's why I got back down to 7 milligrams. And like it's a process. And I think there is life after medication. I do believe that. For me personally, I want to be 5-6 years in without having medication. But from what they've told me, my personal diagnosis is that because it can trigger psychosis, it's better to stay on because it gives you that guard of protection. That's the physical. I know this is almost borderline into the spiritual now, but I think that has become the difficult part of mixing faith with what health and
but as long as I think a lot of the time as well, your personal conviction matters as well. And respecting other people's personal conviction. And if you've never been in that position, you have no right to be speaking as well.
100%.
You know, because you don't know if the doctors gave you painkillers for your knee pain, you'll be taking it in that season.
If you had cancer, you would take the medicine.
The chemo, you'll take it.
You have the chemo because it says that it's going to help you.
It's going to help you.
If you find something that actually works better for you, we've mixed with faith. Okay,
that's excellent.
I don't need 300 milligrams or 1,000 milligrams. My faith tells me I'm okay.
That's amazing to hear.
With professionals has allowed me to bring it down to there.
Okay, can we just dissect that a little bit? When you say work with professionals, is this your GP?
I have care in the community.
Okay.
Which is it's not like, it's kind of like social services, but it's more for your treatment plan. And what they do, they act as my mental health first aiders. They phone me once a month just to say, hey, how you feeling? Do you want to come in for a therapy session? Those sorts of stuff.
And it's absolutely free.
Absolutely free.
And it's based on your where you live.
Obviously there's different trusts have different kind of levels of
okay
care.
But is it your responsibility to
your
go
responsibility
to them?
to engage? If you obviously aren't engaging, they're not going to engage back.
Yeah.
But if you have been hospitalized more than, I think, 4 or 5 times, they do have a level of I think it's urgency and where you are. And because I had been hospitalized like 4 times since 2018, I still have a care plan, or in the community plan. But it's very minimal. I'm not with them, like I'm not actively using their services because I'm a well person. But at least I know that if I do have a crisis, or I have got a situation where I'm not feeling great or my medication isn't working, I know that I can easily access the facility and the trust to do its job. And I think that is another thing where people need to realize that engagement doesn't mean like the end of your life.
Yeah.
Right? It just means that they are making sure that this doesn't happen again, or if this does happen again, you have the support in place, so they know who you are.
Yeah.
And they know your file. Because what can happen is you go to A&E, and we know the crisis that's happening in the A&E at the moment.
Yes.
You can get lost in the system again.
It's very true.
End up in Lancashire.
Yeah.
And then you're going through the whole thing again. Whereas if you have a care team, you're kind of fast-tracked in a way. You are. So yeah.
So there's like a whole community and a whole world of, but that's for people who have been diagnosed. So like coming to like maybe the last few questions or so, if you feel like you might have bipolar, you're not having a manic at this, you may have experienced some manic episodes and gotten through it with no additional support or anything like that, wanted to jump off a bridge or whatever it is that you felt like invincible, but you were never diagnosed. What do you do if you're not having a manic state? You're just, I experienced this a while ago. I do have my dips. And I do suspect that I might, I've been on TikTok and I've diagnosed myself on TikTok that I might have bipolar from people's stories. What do I do if I'm feeling down and lonely but not sure?
So there are crisis team numbers that you can call.
Okay.
If you live in a certain borough, they all look different. You can always engage Mind Charity, because they are, I believe, the second point of contact in the chain of coming into contact with a crisis team. They are more commercialized, but they do their job. So they will be able to send you to the right, either whether it's a therapist, which obviously costs money, or if you go to your local GP, your own GP, they can refer you. So there is a bit of a waiting list, but obviously if you're in the space where you have identified that you may have a problem, it's that you've identified it and you are now taking the next step, which is talking to a healthcare professional. And that's any healthcare professional, by the way, because they all have a duty of care to safeguard. And if you are experiencing lows or suicidal thoughts, they have to do their job and safeguard you. So that's one. 2 is talking to your friends and family and to get some rational feedback on how you are perceived or what's going on. It's just to start the conversation. And it also helps there to be a support network, so that if you are diagnosed, you have someone that can be with you in that process, right?
Yeah.
I also want to say that it would probably be wise to do your due diligence of finding out about the disorder that you think you may have, just so you go in informed as well.
Yes.
If you go very true. You won't know if you've been misdiagnosed, and you won't know if you need a second opinion. So it's a challenging thing. It really is. But I think you have to take responsibility. That's the third thing. And you just have to take responsibility for where you are and checking in with yourself.
This has been it's been such an amazing conversation. We've gone left, right, down,
up.
And anyone listening, I hope you've taken something somewhere. And I know you have. There's no way you can't. Even just for people who are mainly based in the UK, maybe different in America or wherever you may be listening, because we believe that this podcast is going worldwide.
That's
you know, I just want to, we have a tradition on our podcast here on Trust God and Level Up. And what we do is we ask our guests to tell us a specific time where you've needed to trust God, but also level up for yourself. What happened? What was the outcome? Can you think of a specific time? Give us the details. I was in Tesco, standing in the queue at 3 p.m. That kind of detail to glorify God.
Oh, okay. Oh, it's endless. It's endless. Oh my goodness. Where I've had to trust God is daily. Okay. It's daily. I like when the doctor said I'm a miracle. I said, hallelujah. Yes, I am. I took that and I say every day is me trusting God that I am a walking testimony of his.
Yes.
And if I can use if I can say that he has shown up for me in ways that can only be him, is just, it's just an array of peace that abounds in me. So it's just like, for instance, I recently had to move house, and I generally didn't know how, where, and I said only God can take me on this journey, because we had moved everything that we had built together, and we had to now rearrange that. And I'm living in this now, and it's just the journey that I need to trust, because we were renting and now we're in the process of buying. And amen.
For those who are listening, I'm clicking my fingers.
And we are literally walking in that faith of trusting God, leveling up.
Yeah.
We can afford our rent, but why are we paying rent when we can buy?
Yeah.
It was just a conversation. A conversation that started as just, we can buy a house. Let's do that. We might have to feel uncomfortable for a while, but let's trust God.
Yeah.
And I'm living in it. So September, we're coming. We're getting that house.
Amen.
Yes. So check it. We should do a check-in again and see where.
We'll do a check-in. We'll invite you back onto the show.
Right.
We'll start off with, where's your yard at?
Yes. Yes.
But
that is something that I'm trusting God in at this moment.
That's amazing to hear. That is so amazing to hear. And I appreciate you saying that we're trusting from one conversation. We're going to trust God, but also step out of our comfort zone and level up. We want to move from renting to buying and owning our own property. That's right. So that's an amazing testimony right there. But I'm going to just wind it down and just want to say thank you so much, Misha, for just sharing your heart, sharing your own personal experiences. You shared from your heart, and that's what this is all about, just to have conversations, real conversations that people can take something from and apply to their own lives. But we don't stop there, because we're all entrepreneurs, business owners, doing our thing for the glory of God. How can people find you online? Just tell us your what kind of things you're up to. Do you have anything in a pipeline? Just let us know.
Yeah, so I'm in the process of producing a new episode for Archway Heavens, which is my podcast. It can be found on Apple and Spotify, and it's called Archway Heavens. You could also find me on Instagram and TikTok, which is Misha Nelson _ on Instagram and Misha Nels on TikTok. I do have some little bits as well that you can also check out, some work that I've done in the past, which is The Well, which is a tier fund charity focusing on Black Christians taking responsibility on issues of extreme poverty and injustice. So check those things out, and also look up Mind as well, if you want to find out a little bit more about how you can become an advocate or how to get into mental first aid. They do have a discount as well for people of color or people of Black and African and Caribbean descent, and you can reach out to them and get that code to become a mental health first aid.
Oh, that's amazing. Thank you so much. And everything will be linked in the show notes. So guys, check it out. And just want to say thank you. And we'll see you in the next episode.
Oh, amazing to see you.
Come to the end of, let me just stop recording now.
Okay. Wow, that was long. I don't know how you did that.